video, so back again with another Cardfight Vanguard deck profile. So if you guys enjoy, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to the Patreon. So let's get started. So this time, it's my Royal Paladin Altmile budget deck profile. So this one is obviously as it sounds like. It's an Altmile deck on a budget. So let's get this started. So first up, the starter is Shining Knight Millius. So when wrote upon, draw a card, and then if your opponent's Vanguard is greater one or greater, you get a quick shield. So that draw is really nice. The quick shield is mainly going to be used for discard fodder, but the 5k shield can make a difference. It does make a difference in early game guarding, but not really much in later game, but still useful. So Millius is the starter. Next up, we've got triggers. We got 4 draw triggers: Bringer of Court's Favor Regel, 4 flow goals, 4 Eponas, and then the heal trigger being Healing Pegasus. Now you may be wondering, why is there no draw PG, and more importantly, why is there no Crit Sentinel? If you've already watched the Chronojet video, you know which one I would prefer, being the Crit Sentinel, obviously. Well, reason for Crit Sentinel, it was $4 a piece, and I was already over budget as is, buying the stuff I did, so it's not like I could go for $4 per copy, so there was no point, so the Crit Sentinel ain't in this. And if you're wondering about the draw PG, which I do end up having 2 copies of, technically 6 if we count the MLBs, well, the draw PG ain't going to be in this, because 1, like I said in the Chronojet one, it bothers me to combine cards that I believe shouldn't be in the same deck, but 2, the draw PG also would have put me over budget just to buy 2 copies, so it's either buy a regular PG, which I did end up doing, or buy something that's going to put me over budget, which in that case was the regular PG. So that's what I went with. And then the 4 heal triggers being Healing Pegasus, because, hell, we all know Pegasus is supposed to be accumulated with Altmile anyways, so. On to grade 1s. We got 2 copies of Lunar Crescent Knight Felax. So, auto Vanguard or Rearguard, AK base, auto Vanguard or Rearguard, when it attacks or boosts, Soul Blast 1 and return a Rearguard in another column to your hand, and this unit gets plus 5 to end of turn. So it can be a 13k attacker or 13k booster, and it can bounce something important to hand. Like, say you were going for a very stupid final turn, and you called a PG, you did your drive checks, and it turned out that your drive checks were something that would have saved you, or like something that would save you if you had more guarding power, including that PG. You could swing with that PG, whether it poked or hit, and then swing with Felax. As long as you got Soul, you can fix the problem by bouncing that PG back, as long as it was in a different column, and this becomes a 13k hitter. So, it can hit magic numbers, and it can get you defenses back that you either accidentally called to rear guard, or you did as a final turn effort, it ended up effing you halfway through, and Felax happens to be the problem happens to be the thing that fixes the problem. Which is why Felax is so good. But at the same time, there are more important cards in this deck, and the deck does need Soul more or less, so Felax gets the short end of the stick here. But he's still really useful, so 2 copies. Next up, we got 2 copies of the promo that I got from the MLB set. Cloud Lancer Gmoris. So, 2 copies, AK base, auto rearguard circle, 1 place, put up to 1 grade 2 card from your drop zone to the top or bottom of your deck. I'm not so sure if that's an errata or not, because I actually looked it up and I couldn't find it. So if it's bottom, no, I am not aware of it, because I actually tried searching it up and I couldn't find anything that said anything about it. So it's either top or bottom, or it's just bottom. So if you put a card, this unit gets plus 10 to end of turn. I've recently just been putting in the bottom because I'm not even sure, so I assume it's the bottom. I'm not so sure though. But still, that's really good. This deck, before I added the customizations, this deck cycled through grade 2s way too quickly. And when I say way too quickly, I mean by the end of the second grade 3 turn, I saw more than half of the grade 2s. In fact, I was struggling to keep grade 2s in deck. If it wasn't for this, I would have had no grade 2s left in deck. So this actually is really helpful. It can get the grade 2s back and make it so that you're not losing your main way of attacking. So if you're playing something like Kagero, where they'll keep nuking your board, at least you can get them back. So we've got 2 copies, and it's also an 18k booster or attacker if you succeed in doing its skill, which is amazing. So really good card. It's a promo. I believe at least when I tried to buy it, it was $4 a piece. So I was like, yeah, no, 2 works with me. I'll figure out how to do it. So 2 copies of this thing. If you wanted to get 2 more, I would say replace Felax with it, or get rid of one of the other 2 grade 1s for it, because this is actually really important. So 2 copies. 3 copies of Headwind Knight Selim. So 8k base, continuous rearguard circle. If you have no face-up cards and damage, this unit cannot be chosen by your opponent's card abilities. So they can't bind it, they cannot lock it, and they cannot dominate it if you're playing in premium. And what was the other one? I guess, oh right, they cannot, no, Vanish Delete, never mind, because Vanish Delete is binding. I mean, they cannot retire it by chosen effect, so that's still good. So then, in the other ability, auto rearguard circle, at the end of the battle, the attacked or boosted, discard a card from your hand and return one of your rearguards to your hand. So as you can see, this thing focuses on having 0 cards face up and damage, which is exactly what this deck is supposed to do. You counterblast the fuck out of everything, and then you make it so that you have no face up damage, and you rush your opponent down with the power of Hellfire alone. And it does a similar thing to Felax, where instead of soul blasting and bouncing, you discard and stay at the end of the battle, and you get something back. So honestly, Felax is kind of better because granted this thing says anywhere on the field, it can be in the same column even, but this happens at the end of the battle. So like say you're playing in premium and then they denial griffin you or defeat flare you and you have something important in the back row, whatever what's attacking, then this kind of becomes useless. But still, it can be helpful if you have hand cards, if you have a lot of hand cards that you don't need instead of soul that you kind of need for later, then this is your way to go. But otherwise, go with Felax. But either way, still good. It can be a permanent thing that stays on the board because it's going to be difficult for your opponent to get rid of, and it can still bounce rear guards in case you don't have Felax with you. So either way, really good card, 3 copies. Next up, 4 copies of the regular PG Indestructible Knight Earina. So it's the standard 7k base Sentinel. You can only have 4 in the deck, and when placed on guard circle, discard a card from your hand, and it cannot be hit till end of battle. Or one of your units can't be hit till end of battle. So really good standard PG stuff. And then the auto Vanguard circle, when placed, draw a card and discard a card. So if you have to ride this, at least you can still get a draw out of it from the starter, but then this thing, and then you can discard that quick shield, which can already be disappeared, or you can get rid of something else. Either way, amazing. 4 copies. If you want to get the crit Sentinel, because you're a person like me where it will bother you to put the draw PG in, then go ahead and do your thing. If you want to be budget player, put Earina in it. If you want to have the draw PG because it's technically the smart decision, get the draw PG. If you want to run 2 of each, do as you wish. I choose this because it's the cheapest option, and I need to stay in a budget. So 4 copies, still really good though, and I like its art. Next up, 4 copies of Knight of Secret Plan, Watt. If you wanted to cut something down by 2 copies for another Gmoris, this is what you would cut down. So, 4 copies, 7k base, continuous rearguard circle. If you have no face-up cards and damage, this card gets intercept and can intercept from the back row. So that's really good. It is a 7k booster, which isn't the best, because that means it doesn't hit magic numbers, more or less. But, it can still intercept, and that's a 10k shield right there. So, that is really helpful. So 4 copies, if you need the extra shield, it's right there for you. If you want to cut something down for Gmoris, this would be the thing, and you would cut it down to 2 for 2 more Gmoris. So either way, really helpful, 4 copies. And now on to grade 2s. Got 3 copies of Sage of Contemplation Tedun. So 5k shield, 9k base, act rearguard circle once per turn, counterblast 1 and soul blast 1, this unit gets plus 15k to end of turn. So this is where the soul blast problem ensues, where, like I said, Felax is more or less the card, which is why Selim and Felax are here. So basically they balance out with each other. Felax is the better option, but Selim is a substitute option. So you can swap them out between those two as you need to. Tedun here is kind of the reason why Felax isn't that good, because you do need Soul Blast, and honestly Tedun is more important than Felax, because 1, it's a grade 2, so it benefits from the whole entire deck, but 2, you focus on counterblasting a lot, and this does cost a counterblast where Felax does not. But either way, the counterblast skill is you get plus 15k power. So that's really good. It's already a 24k hitter on its own. So it already forces out a 15k guard on your opponent. That's already amazing. And then even if you want to save this for last, you can afford to, because unless they see 2 damage triggers, this is going to hit guaranteedly. So either way, really good. Please ignore that notification. Please ignore that. No! Damn it, news! Fuck. Okay, anyways, let me set it back up. But yeah, pretty much what it does, just a 15k booster. I mean, not 15k booster, 15k attacker, and all around good. So 3 copies, and it's affordable because it's in the trial deck. Next up, we got 3 copies of Hopesong Angel. 10k base, 5k shield, act 1, rearguard circle, Once per turn, counterblast 1, search your deck for up to 1 Starlight Violinist, call it to rear guard, and shuffle your deck. So there are 2 things I have to say about this. One, it's search a Starlight Violinist. Starlight Violinist is your ace grade 2. So having a card that can search it is very important. But then you may be wondering, well, why is this not at 4 copies and then bring Tedun down to 2 for the sake of soul blasting? Here's why. Tedun gives a plus 15k, which the deck focuses on. Since you're mostly going to pick Force 2 with this deck, having those big numbers is important. But 2, you do not, since Starlight Violinist is in this deck at 4 and you have plenty of cards that can search, Hopesong is not needed that much. And, then if that's the case, why not run Tedun at 4 and then why not run this at 2 since Starlight's at 4? Well, then, like I said earlier, the Soul Blast thing with Tedun, so that brings Tedun down to 3, this goes up to 3, and you don't have to search for a Starlight. So you can just counterblast for the sake of counterblasting, because it just says search up to 1. So counterblast, just a counterblast, and then skills go off. So really useful either way. 3 copies. And plus Starlight today's grade 2, so if you have to search for it, search for it. And speaking of the card in question, Starlight Violinist at 4 copies, 10k base, 5k shield. It looks really fucking cool. Its foiling is also really nice, I just have to say that. But continuous rearguard circle, if you have no face-up cards or damage done, all of your grade 2's rearguard circle on your rearguard get boost, counting this card, and intercept from the back row. So, they can basically pull a Watt to where you spam out a whole field of grade 2s and they can intercept. Amazing. And then they can boost. So all of your columns will most likely have 10k boosters. So either way, no matter what, your opponent has to at the very least guard the 15k. So amazing card. 4 copies. You have this that can search for it. You have a grade 3 that can search for it. You have the next card that can search for it. So many things can search for this and it's amazing. So 4 copies. And then now into other grade 2s. We got 4 copies of Absolute Blade Knight Livarot. So 10k base, 5k shield, auto Vanguard or rearguard 1 place from hand, counterblast 1, search your deck for up to 1 grade 2 card, call it to an open rearguard circle and shuffle your deck. And then if you have no physical cards in damage zone, you may soul blast for this cost instead. So that's good. A counterblast, which is already better. And then you get to search your deck for a grade 2, call it to an open rearguard circle and shuffle. So that's amazing. And granted, it has to be from hand, otherwise you could just spam out all your Livarots in one go and then bring out a Starlight, and then you already have a full field of grade 2s. Most likely, you have face-down damage since you just counterblasted 4 times in a row. So, either way, it's amazing. It can be used for rushing moves, and if you have no face-up damage, which you most likely will at some point, you can Soul Blast it instead. I would not suggest doing that. If you're missing a very important piece to the puzzle, then yeah, you can do the Soul Blast instead for the sake of getting that important piece. But otherwise, I don't like doing that. It doesn't, because the deck card is Soul Blast enough, so don't do it. But if you have to get that piece, then do it. Either way, 4 copies, amazing card. And finally, the only grade 3 in this deck, and everyone can yell at me after this, just hear me out on it once I read its ability. So, Blue Sky Knight Altmile, 4 copies, 13k base, Force Gift, continuous Vanguard or rearguard circle. During your turn, if you have no face-up cards in damage zone, this unit gets plus 15k shield. So it's immediately 28k attacker. It's just beautiful. 28k, crit plus, and Force 2, having a whole front row of these guys and all of them having Force 2, that's 28k on their own. Plus the Felax boost, plus Starlight Violinist and the other cards, that's just an immediate 38k column with 2 crits on it. Your opponent's going to have one hell time trying to defend that. And this deck can easily get face down damage. And then the other skill, active Vanguard Circle. Once per turn, counterblast 1, discard a card from your hand, quick shield, and search your deck for up to 2 grade 2 cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So 1, you don't have to search for 2. It just says up to 2. So you can counterblast and discard for the sake of counterblasting and discarding. And then, you could still get 2 grade 2s. Most likely you're going to search for a Livarot. And me personally, I would search for a Hopesong for the sake of counterblast spamming, or Tedun. I wouldn't search for a Starlight, unless I was out of counterblast, then I would search for a Starlight, but I wouldn't because then I can abuse more counterblast and spam out more units that way. So if you are running out of counterblast, then get a Starlight from its skill. If you're not, then get a Livarot and a Hopesong, or a Livarot and a Tedun, or if you're out of Livarots, for many reasons, you'll most likely run out of Livarots at some point, then you'll go with a, what's the card called? Tedun and Hopesong. but still really amazing. And if you're wondering why this is the only grade 3, well, one, obviously this is a budget deck. Arrow Divine Knight Altmile is not getting in this no matter how much we try. But the other reason is because the other grade 3 that I was debating on putting in, I forgot what its name was. It has a bow and arrow, that's all I remember about it. But it basically gives plus 15k by counterblasting one and discarding a card, and I think you get to draw one off it. But I don't really like that, because one, it's not a grade 2, and this deck needs grade 2s, like, beyond heck. And when I was test playing this on Area, it felt weird having that grade 3, because it didn't feel as comfortable playing than it does playing this deck. It felt like I had to make smarter decisions, where in this deck, you still have to make smart decisions, but it's a lot easier to make them. So if you want you can't see it when I'm doing air quotes. If you want a better build with another grade 3 in it for the sake of not being grade locked, then you can add the grade 3 that has a bow and arrow. Most of you know what I'm talking about. It came out in the next stage set, and it's a card that kind of looks like Felax as a grade 3. So if you want, you can put 3 copies of that and replace Tedun for it. Otherwise, I would say stick with this one because this feels a lot more comfortable to use. And then the Force Gifts, which is Force 1. You're not going to use this one that much, but if you want to use it, it's a 10k stack, and it can be put on the same circles. So that's kind of useful. Most likely, you're only going to use this against Cradle because the deck can already pull up enough power as is. So you're only going to use this against Cradle decks or decks that have high amounts of defending power so that you want to force through, get it, with Force 1. Or Force 2, which you're most likely going to use because the deck already gets enough power as is, like I said before, so having the extra crits just to mow down more cards for the sake of guarding is a lot better. So either way, it just depends on the preference. Force 1, like I said, either high amounts of guarding power or Cradle, or Force 2, where you're just doing it for the sake of breaking through there and dealing them 6 damage really quickly. By the way, if you picked Force 2, if your opponent's playing Cradle and you pick Force 2, you're an idiot unless you have some really smart-ass mastermind plan ready. And if you do this, I would like to see that mastermind plan, especially with this deck, because I don't believe this deck can handle Cradle with Force 2. If it can, someone do it. But if it can't, then I was right. But anyways, that was the deck, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to the Patreon. If you want this deck, it's about $20 by buying the child deck and then buying the customizations. Wait, I'm lying. It's more than $20. It's like $30. If you want to buy each card individually, then I believe it's like $20. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to the Patreon. And I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your Vanguard.